What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Black men and MGTOW similarities. Um, First of all, as people would say, um, I made a video a long time ago talking about racism and feminism have the same business model, explaining how it pays off. So I'm using that same model right now to talk about the similarities between how people view black men and how people view MGTOW, right? For a long time, black men have been the scary boogeyman since birth of a nation. Look that up if you need to. It's not bad when somebody else does it, but when a black man does it, it's the worst thing in the world. Even if he didn't do it, really. That's what MGTOW men are talking about now. This stereotype is he's got to be violent, he's got to be evil, he's got to be inherently wrong in some way. The ignorant stereotype. Oh, this black is ignorant. You're just ignorant. You're uneducated. That's somebody telling you you're stupid all the time. MGTOW men are always talking about when you look at TV, they always make the male character a buffoonish person who can't do anything without somebody. That was the same way that black men were put out there for hundreds of years. Like, we need somebody to talk for us, right? Um, Another thing is, comparative to someone, they're more valuable than we are, even if we're the ones putting in all the work. What I mean by that is this. You hear people talk about us black people like our lives are not worth anything. Not, and then people say, well, black on black crime. Okay, we talking about people maybe a couple of years out of being teenagers. You know, just be real. Maybe a few, and a couple is two. So a few years out of being teenagers. After you get to that, you're not saying black on black crime at 27, 25, 30. You're not doing that, But everybody else is buck wild past 25. But that's a whole nother story. Um, but because of that, that's how you hear MGTOW men saying the same thing. Men do so much in the world, but men are valued so less. Like, we're unneeded and unwanted and subservient and inferior. Let's just use inferior for both. Viewed as life, work, accomplishments as inferior. Another thing that's similar is when brothers do something, it's like, somebody who's not a brother do something, that was the greatest shit I've ever seen. It's an imitation of the same thing that you said was, MGTOW men are saying the same thing to a degree. Man does something, seen it before. Woman do something, that was the most stupendous shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, but that's just an imitation of what what. Now, I'm saying that to go somewhere. Black men have, like, what? We kind of figured out how the family court system works, how the legal system works. Because it ain't really a justice system, because it's unjust as fuck. Let's be honest. It's an unjustice system. How about that? MGTOW men are like, these courts are fucked up. They just sign with these women no matter what. And that's what brothers been saying for years. These courts is fucked up. They just sign with these white folks no matter what. Same thing, right? You had to use one. Racism has that same model as feminism does. It's the same thing. So when black men were dealing with racism, it was okay, shut your mouth, it ain't affect me. And then feminism caught, men started getting affected. Like, oh shit, it affects me now. But it's the same exact mode of operation. Same thing with how America treats black men to how MGTOW men feel now. It's the same thing. I've been telling you all this shit for years, but it didn't really affect you until recently. So on the flip side, the women don't get how um, people talk about black women. They're so successful and they can't find a man, and 60–70% of these babies are out of wedlock, and your fathers just nowhere to be found, and what this is bullshit, and these men ain't shit. Well, MGTOW, man, that's where you headed. Yeah, pretty much, because you're not gonna want to get married either. You're not gonna want to have kids and deal with the bullshit that feminism brings either. You be like, I'm going my own way. See, brothers went our own way. I'm not fucking with this. The difference, I think, what y'all might have to, I doubt it. I'm not too sure if MGTOW men gonna have to go through this. Well, that's what black men used to talk about. Well, shit, I was gonna call the police. If I can't get you in line, I'm gonna call the police to get you in line. I guess feminism, as far as racially goes, is more sophisticated because there's a oneness between, to a degree, everybody else, in a sense. More white on white than anything, but in a sense, there's more of a, we're not gonna just let this happen to you. They railroad a lot of motherfuckers, though. Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of white men who got no business being fucked over the way they're being fucked over, but it's in that same mode. But because of that, marriage is declining. Because of that, child birth rates to a degree are declining, partially because of that. I think it's more of more about probably homosexuality and that, and ultimately it creates a big lack of trust from men to women. That's why people talking about on YouTube, they have black gender wars, though the gender wars, which is now just gender wars between MGTOW and feminism, right? Well, this ain't gonna end well for nobody. I'm gonna say it like that. You see, women are gonna be unhappy because they can't get what they want in men when they want it out of men, because men are gonna smarten up. Which, that's what a lot of black men have done, but people look at it differently. Like, I can't believe he won't take responsibility. No, he's taking responsibility. He just don't have to be on television in front of you taking responsibility. If somebody calls on a radio show and says, oh, he ain't shit, that don't mean he got to call a radio show and say, that's some bullshit. If somebody goes on TV and say, he ain't shit, that don't mean they have to go on TV and say, that's some bullshit. They don't have to do that. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. But just like sisters have to paint that argument, people at some point had sympathy for black women, and they started dealing with black women, and they started dealing with some of those same black women who painted that picture, and started to realize these chicks treacherous. I'm not talking about all black women, I'm just saying. MGTOW men are feeling that from feminists. These men are mean, evil. They will just use you and abuse you at any given moment. And then people all over the world are like, you heifers is treacherous. Yeah, I wouldn't fuck with you, neither. So, ultimately, will women come around? Yes, they will. When they're old, when they get lonely, when they're unattractive, when reality hits them and they don't want to die waving the banner of feminism by their goddamn self, with nothing but ugly ass women around them. So yes, men on the other hand, is touchy. It depends on how you maneuver during the period of this evolution. If you get your money right, you'll be fine. If you keep yourself um, physically well, you'll be fine. Because black men, just like it's like a supply and demand. Men in general are in high demand at a certain point in life. Okay, so, but you won't see men making themselves as available as they did when they were younger. The same thing with brothers. Brothers don't, we're not, excuse me, we're not out there like, hey baby, I'm just, how you doing? No, fuck that. Chased your ass too long. Dealt with the bullshit too long. No. I'll meet you on my terms when I feel like it from now on. Because trying to meet you on all of your erratic terms and wanting everything when you want it doesn't work for me. And ultimately, it doesn't work for you either. So the same feminist women will eventually say some shit like, I need a man who can lead me. Which they'll go through a period in which they buck everything a guy tries to lead her to, which leave her by herself again. Then she realized, fuck, I really need to bow down and just, accept that a man is a man. He doesn't have to, like brothers have to, we have to sandbag in America. What I mean by that is, we can't show the world how actually good we are at something because it scares people. So men, we sandbag and separate ourselves. See, if we help somebody behind the scenes, they'd be like, he's a genius, he's great, he's a great mind, but somebody else wants to take credit for all the shit. So they'll come out, it's me, baby, it's me. I think the little people over here will help me. Same thing with MGTOW, man. They gonna come. You ain't gotta help them all the way though. Help yourself. Don't help them all the way. So these are the similarities that I'm seeing for the reasons I'm saying, but it's all gonna work out in the end because same way with a lot of us black men over time. We seen it all. You ain't gotta listen to us. We seen it all. But you're always watching us and spying on what we thinking and what we doing because you know we seen it all. We done been through it all. So our wealth of knowledge is far greater than yours because you get away with shit and half-ass do shit. MGTOW, man, y'all gonna see it all as far as that's concerned. Gonna go through it all because the cards and the deck will be stacked against you. And it's different for people who get everything handed to them on a silver platter and somebody who's always the away team. Because if it's not handed to people on a silver platter, they can't handle it. But if you're always the away team, there's nothing you can't handle. I'm just saying, man,